Ethan Cole stepped off the shuttle onto the rocky surface of Varel Prime. The air was thin and cold, but it carried the faint smell of burning metal and dry soil. He adjusted his jacket and took a deep breath. Years of space travel had made him used to strange worlds, but this one felt different. It felt tense. The planet had been under Dominion control for decades. Humans had just helped free it, and now the people here were uncertain what to expect. Ethan's mission was simple, in words at least. He was part of a peace delegation from Earth. The human fleet wanted to establish trust with the people who had lived under alien rule. He walked carefully, noting the ruins of buildings around him. Some were old, burned-out shells of stone and metal. Others were newer, built during the war. Everywhere he looked, there were signs of struggle, signs of survival. A few meters ahead, soldiers in silver armor stood at attention. Their helmets reflected the light of the twin suns. Ethan recognized them as Varel Dominion soldiers, though some had lowered their weapons and looked at him with cautious curiosity. He knew the feeling. Humans had faced the same tension when alien fleets came to Earth in the past, Captain Cole. A young officer said. She had short brown hair and bright green eyes. "This way, please." Her voice was calm but firm. She led him toward a large building that had survived the battle almost untouched. Its walls were white and polished, a stark contrast to the surrounding ruins dot inside. The hall was enormous. Flags of both human and Varel symbols hung from the ceiling. A crowd of soldiers, politicians, and civilians waited quietly. Some whispered to each other. Some stared openly at Ethan. He could feel their judgment, their fear, and perhaps a bit of hope. As he walked, he noticed a figure at the far end of the room. She was taller than most of the Varel soldiers and wore armor with a blue trim that marked her rank. Her posture was perfect, her movements deliberate. Ethan felt a strange chill. Something about her presence demanded attention. When she moved forward, her long silver hair catching the light, Ethan realized she was approaching him. His heartbeat quickened, though he had faced thousands of soldiers in hostile worlds before. There was something personal in the way she walked, as if she had known him without ever meeting him. She stopped a step away and leaned close. Her blue eyes locked on his. "My father always used to talk about you," she whispered. Ethan froze. He had expected threats, greetings, or cold formalities. But this was something he did not understand. He looked at her face, searching for signs of mockery or anger, but there were none. Her expression was serious, almost sad, but respectful. I'm sorry," Ethan said slowly. "I don't understand." "Your father?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Commander Terran Drath, he helped you once," Ethan's mind raced. Terran Drath. The name seemed familiar, buried deep in the memory of a battle long ago. He remembered the ambush near the Cerulean Ridge, when his unit had been trapped by Dominion forces. A sudden attack from one of their own pilots had saved him. He remembered a flash of silver armor, the hum of plasma weapons, and a strange signal that warned him to run. You saved me," Ethan said slowly, realization dawning. "Years ago. Near Cerulean Ridge?" She nodded. "I am his daughter. I was very young then. He never told me everything, but he spoke often of the human soldier he saved. I wanted to meet him." Ethan could not speak for a moment. Memories flooded back: fear, confusion, relief, and gratitude. He had never known the identity of the pilot who had saved him. Now, standing in front of him, was the daughter of that man. The room felt suddenly smaller, though it had not changed. The sounds of distant conversations and the hum of lights seemed to fade. All that mattered was this moment. He wanted to ask her questions, to learn everything about her father, to understand why she sought him out. But the crowd waited, and the ceremony had not ended. A human diplomat cleared his throat. "Captain Cole, the peace talks will begin shortly," he said. Ethan nodded, taking one last look at the woman. She remained still, watching him closely, her hands clasped in front of her dot as the ceremony began. Ethan took his place at the table. Representatives from both humans and Virals spoke about peace, rebuilding, and cooperation. Words filled the room, but Ethan's mind kept drifting back to her. Kayla Drath. Her name sounded strong, proud and unfamiliar. He wondered how much of her father lived in her, how much courage and honor she had inherited. After the formal greetings ended, a Varel officer approached him. "Captain Cole, General Drath would like to speak with you privately." Ethan swallowed. This was the moment he had been waiting for, though he had not known it. He followed the officer through a maze of corridors. The walls were cold and metallic, but he noticed pictures of the planet's past, of its landscapes, and of its people. Kayla waited at the end of the hall. She did not speak at first. She just looked at him, eyes scanning, as if she were trying to read his memories. Then she spoke softly. "I have heard stories of your courage. My father admired you greatly." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. "I did what I had to do," he said humbly. "I was just trying to survive and protect my men." Kayla smiled faintly. "You did more than survive. You inspired him, and through him, you inspired me." Ethan wanted to ask her everything: the battles, her father's life, how he had died, but she stopped him. "There is little time now," she said. "The peace talks are fragile. There are those who still hate, those who plan to destroy what we have built." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Destroy the peace?" Kayla nodded. "Some Dominion officers cannot forgive. They believe humans can never be trusted. They will act soon, and if they succeed, war will return." Ethan understood then that meeting her was not just a coincidence. This was a warning, a call for help, and perhaps the beginning of something much larger. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had been trained for war, for battle, for the command of fleets, but this was different. This was about trust, about honor, about carrying the memory of a man who had once chosen humanity over his own species. Kayla glanced toward the window, watching the ruins outside. "My father believed in humans. He believed that courage and honor were not limited to one species. I want to believe the same." Ethan nodded. "Then we have to act carefully. One wrong move, and this peace will end before it begins." She looked at him, her gaze steady. "I will follow your lead," she said. "But I must also protect my people. If we fail, many will die." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two soldiers from different worlds, connected by one man's choice years ago, now standing together on the edge of a fragile peace. Ethan realized that this alliance was rare, perhaps the only chance to prevent war from returning to this planet. Outside, the twin suns began to set. Their light spilled across the ruins, casting long shadows and painting the rocks gold and red. Ethan felt a strange sense of hope. This was a beginning, not an end. And in that hope, he saw the spirit of humanity shining through the darkness. Kayla stepped closer. "Tomorrow, we begin," she said softly. "Tomorrow, we will act." Ethan nodded. "I'll be ready." As he left the hall that night, he looked back one last time. Kayla Drath stood at the window, watching him leave, just as her father had watched him survive so many years ago. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that perhaps this war-weary universe could still have heroes. Even in the most unexpected places, he did not know what the next day would bring. But he knew one thing for certain. The memory of Taryn Drath, her father, would guide them both. And perhaps, just perhaps, humanity could prove once more why it deserved a place among the stars. The next morning, Ethan woke in the small guest quarters the Varel delegation had arranged for him. The room was bare but clean. A single window showed the city below, still recovering from the scars of war. He stared out at the streets, watching people move carefully among the rubble. There was a quiet tension in the air, as if everyone was waiting for something to happen. Ethan knew that waiting could be dangerous. War had taught him that enemies often struck when people were careless, when they thought peace was near. He dressed quickly and left the room. The corridors of the delegation center were quiet. Most of the soldiers and officers were preparing for the morning meetings. But Ethan had another plan. He wanted to learn more about Kayla Drath's father. The story she had whispered the night before stayed in his mind. Commander Taryn Drath had saved him during a battle years ago, yet he had never known the man's name. Ethan wanted answers, and he hoped Kayla could help him find them. He found her in the central courtyard, standing beneath the shadow of a half-destroyed statue. The sun glinted off her armor, making her look taller and more imposing than she already was. She turned as he approached. "Good morning," Ethan said. "I wanted to talk about your father, if you have time." Kayla studied him for a moment. Then she nodded. "We can walk," she said. She led him through winding streets, past buildings damaged by the war. The people on the streets watched them, some whispering, some curious. It was clear that seeing a human walking with General Drath was unusual. "My father spoke about you often," Kayla began, her voice quiet. "He told me stories of the humans he met, of the courage he saw, and of the one human who showed him honor even when we were at war." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "I remember him," he said slowly. "He saved me near Cerulean Ridge. I never knew who he was." Kayla looked at him, her blue eyes thoughtful. "He never told me everything either, but I found some of his journals after the war. He wrote about that day. About you. He admired you, Ethan Cole. He admired your decisions, even when they went against his orders." Ethan shook his head. "I don't feel like a hero. I was just trying to survive. I had no choice." Kayla's lips pressed together. "Sometimes, courage is choosing to do what is right even when you have no choice. That is what he told me about you." They walked in silence for a few moments. Then Kayla spoke again. "There is more you should know. Not everyone here wants peace. Some of my people believe that humans are not to be trusted. They plan to end the treaty before it even begins." Ethan stopped. "End the treaty?" Kayla nodded. "There is a faction in the Dominion. They do not respect the sacrifices my father made. They see you and your people as a threat. They are planning a strike against the human fleet nearby." Ethan frowned. He had hoped that diplomacy would be enough, but he had learned in war that hope alone did not prevent betrayal. "Do you know when they will strike?" he asked. Kayla shook her head. "No exact time, but they are moving quickly. We must be ready." Ethan considered their options. They could alert the humans immediately, but that might cause panic or distrust among the Varel citizens. They could wait, but then the extremists might act first. He realized they had little time. "I think we need to act together," Ethan said finally. "We need to find their plans and stop them before they do anything." Kayla studied him. "It will be dangerous. If they discover us, they will kill us both. And my people might see me as a traitor." Ethan nodded. "I understand, but I trust you, and I think you trust me too." Kayla took a deep breath. "I do. Let's move." They left the streets and entered a series of narrow alleys that led beneath the city. The tunnels were dark and cold, the walls damp with moisture. Ethan adjusted his jacket and followed her carefully. He had seen similar tunnels in human cities after bombings, but these were older. They smelled of stone and metal, of history and secrecy. Kayla led him to a small door hidden behind a stack of crates. She produced a key from a hidden pocket and unlocked it. Inside was a chamber filled with old files, maps, and communication devices. Ethan felt a spark of hope. This was where they might find the plans of the extremists. Kayla handed him a thin folder. "These are reports my father kept," she said. "He believed some in the Dominion would turn against peace. I have added what I could find since the war ended." Ethan flipped through the pages. Maps showed troop movements. Messages indicated secret meetings. Plans for weapons were carefully documented. He could see the danger clearly. The extremists intended to attack human ships docked near the orbiting station within hours. "They plan to strike tonight," Ethan said quietly. "We don't have much time." Kayla nodded. "Then we must act. But first, you need to know. My father was not just a soldier. He was a man who believed in honor above all else. He saved your life because he thought it was right. And he believed that humans had the courage to change the galaxy." Ethan felt a weight in his chest. "Your father saved me. I owe him, and now I owe you. If we fail, more lives will be lost." Kayla smiled faintly. "We will not fail. We have to believe in that." They worked quickly, planning their next steps. Ethan would contact the human fleet and warn them, while Kayla would move within her own people to stop the extremists. Time was short, and mistakes could be deadly. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Kayla stopped. "There is something else," she said. "Some of my father's recordings are here. Messages he left for me. They explain why he chose to help humans even at the risk of his life. Ethan looked at her. "Can we see them?" Kayla nodded. She led him to a small console and typed in a code. The screen lit up, showing a holographic recording of a man in silver armor. Ethan froze. It was Commander Taryn Drath. "My daughter," the man said, voice calm but strong. "If you are seeing this, then I am gone. But I want you to know that humans are capable of great courage. I have met one who changed the way I see the galaxy. Remember him, trust in him, and fight for what is right, even when it seems impossible." Kayla's eyes glistened. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. The man had saved his life, and now he was speaking to Kayla through time and memory. "He believed in you," Kayla said softly. "He wanted me to know that humans can make a difference. And I see now that he was right. You have that same courage." Ethan shook his head. "I don't feel like I do. I only survive. I only try to do what is right." Kayla smiled. "That is enough. That is all that matters." They left the hidden chamber and returned to the surface. The streets were quieter now, as if the city itself was holding its breath. People moved cautiously, glancing at them as they passed. Ethan and Kayla both knew that the next hours would decide the future of the planet. Ethan contacted the human fleet through a secure channel. He explained the threat and requested immediate reinforcements. The fleet acknowledged the message and promised to respond as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Kayla moved among her own soldiers, carefully persuading them to stay loyal and follow her instructions. Some were suspicious, but most trusted her judgment. She spoke with authority and calm, reminding them of their duty to protect their people, not to start another war. As the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the city, Ethan and Kayla met one last time before the critical night began. They looked at each other, both understanding the risks, both prepared to face whatever came next. "We fight for peace," Kayla said quietly. "For my father." "For the future," Ethan nodded. "Then we fight together." For a moment, the weight of history, war, and hope pressed upon them. They were two soldiers from different worlds, connected by one man's choice, standing together against forces that wanted to destroy everything they believed in. And as darkness fell, the first signs of the extremist movement began. Shadows moved through the alleys. Ships prepared to launch. Plans were set into motion. The stage was ready for a night that could either bring disaster or a new beginning. Ethan tightened his jacket, checked his weapons, and glanced at Kayla. She gave him a firm nod, her eyes steady and determined. They were ready. The peace they had fought for depended on their courage, on their decisions, and on the legacy of a man who had once saved a human life. Ethan knew one thing: they could not fail. Not now, not ever. The night had only just begun. The night air on Varel Prime was cold and sharp. Ethan Cole moved carefully through the shadows, following Kayla Drath. The streets of the city were quiet, but not empty. Occasionally, the distant hum of engines or the flash of lights told him that the extremists were already on them. Kayla led him to a narrow alley, away from the main roads. "We need to reach the depot first," she whispered. "It's where they are storing the weapons they plan to use against the human fleet. If we can secure it, we might stop the attack before it starts." Ethan nodded. He checked his gear one last time. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but he felt ready. Kayla moved like a shadow, confident and precise, and Ethan tried to match her pace. He had been in many battles, but he had never worked so closely with someone whose life and the lives of many others depended on trust built in a single day. The depot was a few blocks away. It was heavily guarded, but Kayla knew the patrol routes. She led Ethan along rooftops and behind abandoned buildings, moving quietly and quickly. They could hear the distant voices of guards, the clatter of boots on metal, and the occasional sharp orders being shouted out when they reached the depot. They crouched behind a pile of crates. Ethan studied the layout. The building was large, with multiple entrances and a small watchtower at one end. Soldiers moved inside, carrying boxes and preparing weapons. Kayla turned to him. "We go in together. You cover me, and I secure the central control panel. That will lock the doors and prevent the weapons from leaving." Ethan nodded. "Understood." They waited for a moment, observing the guards' movements. Then Kayla signaled, and they moved. She slipped through a side entrance while Ethan climbed a ladder to a higher vantage point. From there, he could see the soldiers below, unaware of their approach. Kayla entered the depot silently. Her armor made little noise as she moved between the crates. Ethan watched, ready to act if anyone noticed them. His pulse quickened, but he focused. Years of combat training kicked in. He scanned the area, tracking each soldier's position. Kayla reached the control panel. She quickly entered a code and began locking the doors. Lights blinked red and green, and the hum of machinery filled the air. Suddenly, a guard appeared around a corner. Kayla ducked behind a crate, drawing a small energy pistol from her belt. The guard paused, confused by the flashing lights. She fired once. The guard fell silently. Ethan saw the movement from above and fired his own weapon, taking down a second guard who had spotted the lights. The sound echoed through the depot, but the other soldiers froze, unsure of what was happening. Kayla continued working at the panel. Almost done, she whispered. Suddenly, more guards came from the other side. Ethan moved quickly, firing in short bursts to distract them. Kayla finished the sequence, and the doors slammed shut. Alarms began to sound, but the weapons were secured. "Good job," Ethan said, climbing down. "Now we need to get out before they call reinforcements." Kayla nodded. "Follow me." They ran through the tunnels beneath the city, avoiding the main streets. The sound of shouting grew louder behind them. Soldiers were searching for the intruders, but Ethan and Kayla moved swiftly, using every shadow and alley to their advantage. After several tense minutes, they reached a hidden courtyard. Kayla paused, catching her breath. "We stopped them this time," she said, "but they will try again. We need to find out who is leading them. That is the only way to end this threat." Ethan looked at her. "Do you have any idea who it is?" Kayla shook her head. "Not yet. My father warned me that some in the Dominion would never accept peace. They are clever and patient. We need more information." Ethan considered their options. They could try to interrogate captured soldiers, but that would be risky. They could search for documents or messages, but that might take too long. Time was short, and the extremists could act again at any moment. Kayla thought for a moment. There's an old communications hub beneath the central tower. It is heavily guarded, but if we can access it, we might intercept their messages. We could learn who is giving the orders. Ethan nodded. "Then that is our next step." They moved quickly toward the central tower. The streets were darker now, the twin suns having fully set. Shadows stretched long across the rubble, and the occasional patrol made them duck and hide. Ethan felt the tension building. Every step could lead to discovery. Every corner could hide danger. When they reached the tower, Kayla pointed to a small door at the back. "This is our entry point. Follow me." They slipped inside, finding a stairwell that led deep underground. The walls were cold and damp, and the air smelled of dust and machinery. Ethan checked his weapon, making sure it was ready. Kayla moved ahead, silent and sure. At the bottom of the stairwell, they found the communications hub. It was dark and quiet, except for the low hum of equipment. Ethan's heart raced. This was their chance to learn the truth, to stop the extremists, and to protect the human fleet. Kayla approached the main console. She began typing, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. Ethan covered the entrances, scanning for any signs of danger. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the hub. "Stop right there." A group of soldiers appeared, weapons raised. Ethan fired first, taking down one soldier before he could react. Kayla moved quickly, disabling another with a precise shot. The fight was fast and brutal. Both of them moved with skill and efficiency, covering each other as they cleared the room. When the last soldier fell, Kayla returned to the console. She began searching through the intercepted messages. Names, dates, and locations scrolled across the screen. Finally, she found what she was looking for. "The leader," she said. "A commander named Ryler. He is coordinating the attacks. He believes that humans cannot be trusted and wants to restart the war." Ethan frowned. "Do we know where he is?" Kayla nodded. "Yes, he is in a hidden base on the outskirts of the city. We can reach it tonight, but it will be dangerous." Ethan clenched his jaw. We don't have a choice. If we stop him, we can prevent the attack and save lives, Kayla agreed. We go together, but we must be careful. He will be prepared for us. They left the hub, moving through the dark streets. The city seemed alive with shadows and whispers. Ethan could feel the danger pressing in on them. Every sound, every movement could be an ambush. But he trusted Kayla. She had led them well so far, and he knew she would not fail. When they reached the outskirts of the city, they found the hidden base. It was a small compound surrounded by high walls and guarded by soldiers. Ethan and Kayla crouched behind a ridge, observing the activity inside. Kayla whispered, "We wait for the right moment. Then we strike." Ethan nodded. He could feel his pulse quicken, his senses sharp. Years of combat had prepared him for this, but the stakes were higher than ever. This was not just about survival. This was about peace, about honor, about preventing a war that could destroy countless lives. They waited, watching the guards and the movements inside the compound. The night stretched on, silent except for the distant hum of machinery and the occasional shout. Finally, Kayla gave the signal. They moved swiftly, using the shadows to approach the walls. Ethan scaled the fence while Kayla covered him. Once inside, they moved quietly through the compound, avoiding patrols and cameras. Every step brought them closer to Commander Ryler, closer to stopping the extremists before it was too late. When they reached the central building, Kayla signaled Ethan to stop. "This is it," she whispered. "We confront him here. One wrong move, and it could all fail." Ethan took a deep breath. He looked at Kayla, seeing determination and courage in her eyes. "Let's finish this," he said. They entered the building, ready for whatever awaited them inside. The fight for peace, for the future of Varel Prime, and for the honor of Kayla's father was about to reach its most dangerous stage. And as they stepped into the dimly lit room, Commander Ryler awaited, surrounded by his soldiers. He looked at them, a cruel smile on his face. "I wondered when you would come," he said. Ethan and Kayla exchanged a glance. They knew the battle ahead would be the hardest yet, but they also knew they were not alone. Together, they could face the darkness, and together, they could fight for peace. The first shots rang out, echoing through the walls. The fight had begun.